got 8 pages of little facts and little figures, and it's not just the presidents, but also their wives and things around their assassination as well. To you, what are some of the most intriguing or fascinating similarities between the two presidents?
Well, like I say, everything happened more or less within exactly 100 years between them. Like the elections, they both were noted for their civil rights stands.
Mm-hmm.
And Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Kennedy did the Civil Rights Act in 1963.
100 years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Again, 100 years between the two. A lot of the things they believed in were the same kind of thing. A lot of their habits were the same kind of thing. Both of them drove their security guards nuts because they didn't have the Secret Service. And oddly enough, one of the last things that Lincoln was going to do before he left for Ford's Theater, the night he was assassinated, he signed into law the bill creating the Secret Service.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he just had like Pinkerton detectives that would guard him. Kennedy, of course, had Secret Service. But they would both drive their security guards crazy because Lincoln had a habit of going out and riding around Washington in the middle of a war with no bodyguards and where anybody could take a pot shot at him.
Mm-hmm.
And Kennedy, of course, if he was in a motorcade or something, he would get out of the car and he'd go and he'd shake hands in the crowd, and the Secret Service would go crazy because they couldn't guard the guy.
Right.
They were both notorious for borrowing money from people. They both studied law. There was a lot of different little things that they did. Both of them had been involved with boats at one time, as captains of boats. Lincoln was a Mississippi riverboat captain. Kennedy, of course, was captain of a motor patrol boat, PT boat, during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to digress for a minute. The PT-109 story, everybody probably knows. He was out on patrol. His boat got hit by a Japanese destroyer, cut in two, and the survivors were found several days later, swimming from island to island. But when he was inaugurated, they had a life-size replica of PT-109 in his inaugural parade, and they got back as many crewmen as they could find who'd been on that boat to be on the float, and they also brought the Japanese destroyer commander from Japan, who was also on the boat, and that was the first time Kennedy had met him.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was kind of cool,
During his inauguration.
During his inauguration, his inaugural parade, yeah.
That is amazing. Tell us a little bit more about the wives of the two. I know there's similarities, obviously, between the two men, but also similarities between the women.
Well, Lincoln was married to Mary Todd Lincoln, and Kennedy was Jackie Kennedy, Jackie Bouvier Kennedy. And prior to getting married, both Mary Todd and Jackie Bouvier were engaged to someone else.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
That right there.
Yeah, both of them, when they got married to their husbands, were 24 years old. Both came from socially prominent families and could speak French fluently.
Wow.
And as far as I know, and I haven't been able to verify this, so I'm not saying this is true. As far as I know, the two first ladies were the only two who could speak French fluently. Both were noted for their high fashion. They were always wearing the latest in Paris gowns, things like that. Both of them got in trouble for spending a lot of money on the White House. During the Civil War, Mary Todd Lincoln spent, I think it was like $20,000 to get new draperies and stuff for the White House, when her hubby Abe couldn't even get money to buy blankets and uniforms for the soldiers during the war. And then Jackie, of course, spent thousands of dollars refurbishing the White House. I remember, I think I was maybe 11, 12 when Kennedy was in office, so I'm dating myself. But I remember watching on TV Jackie Kennedy's tours of the White House.
White House, yeah.
Yeah, and her telling us all about the White House and things like that. And both of them, of course, were present when their husbands were assassinated. Mary Lincoln was with her husband in the presidential box at Ford's Theater, and Jackie was with her husband in the limousine when he was assassinated. And the interesting thing is, after the assassinations, neither wife remembered what she did immediately after it happened. Mary Todd Lincoln, they had to take her out of the house, the Peterson house, where they took Lincoln after the assassination attempt, because she was hysterical. And later on, she said she didn't remember any of that. And we all remember the Zapruder film of Jackie climbing onto the back of the limo.
Right.
They thought it was to get Clint Hill, who was the Secret Service guy, who's the one you see get back up, on the limo and jump in. She was actually crawling on the back of the lid to find a piece of her husband's skull that had flown back there, and she said she didn't remember that at all.
No.
And the only way she did know she did it was to see the Zapruder film later on. So they both had kind of like a blackout, which is only understandable.
Oh, sure.
It's a traumatic thing, right?